If you're losing good people or watching your team operate in silos, the problem isn't your strategy. It's that you're leading through your own lens instead of seeing things through theirs. And before we dive in, I wish you know if any of this today or any of the other podcasts, if it starts to nerve with you, if you know that you're a good leader and you want to elevate or you want to grow or you know that you're not as strong of a leader as you could be, or sometimes we just feel like there's a little bit more that we can do, I wish you to book a leadership strategy call with me. That's where we'll dig into your unique leadership lens and how it's shaping your team's engagement, motivation, and results. And also we can look at what this feeling of more is. But before we begin, welcome to a Leader's Purpose podcast. My name is Tami, and I'm on a mission to help leaders like you. I guide them and their teams to uncover core motivations, leverage your unique wiring, and build sustainable systems for long-term success. I truly believe that the future of leadership lies through understanding yourself and your people more than just understanding the skills, the tasks, and the doings of the jobs in your organization. And so today we want to talk about what it means to lead through their lens, the lens of your team, by understanding what your team needs and why, and how we can break down some of these silos and communication. First, I was trying to think of what can I relate this to? And I was thinking about a restaurant. So let's think of a really nice restaurant, like a 5-star restaurant. And the head chef insists that every cook use the same saute pan. So the pastry chef has to struggle because he's got to make pastries on the saute pan. The grill master becomes frustrated. The prep cook becomes inefficient. And the head chef just thinks, work harder. But the chaos continues. And he does that because he's most comfortable with the saute pan. That's how he has his claim to fame. That is the tool that he's been using. And yet, for these other roles, the pastry chef, the grill master, the prep cook, it's inefficient. It doesn't work. And so there's a disconnect there. And the idea of working harder doesn't work. And so this is leadership without emotional intelligence. It's everyone forced into your style. And so you wouldn't hand every chef the same pan. So why would you expect your whole team to thrive under your lens alone? And so what this may look like is saying, why does Sarah always push back in meetings? And something you may be Googling is like how to deal with resistant employees or team members. Another one is, why can't Mark make a decision? And so you may be Googling indecisive team members. Why does this Tom seem disengaged lately? And then you may be Googling like employee engagement strategies. Things that you may be saying is, I'm a good leader. Why is this not working? This has worked before. Why is it not working now? Maybe I need a better system or process. Or am I being too soft? Or am I being too demanding? So if these are some of the things that you're experiencing, if these are some of the questions you're saying, if these are some of the leadership challenges you're experiencing, you're not alone in this. So after 2 decades of guiding executives through team dynamics, I can tell you that leaders who master this aren't the ones with the most experience. The ones who understand that every person on their team has a different operating system. And once you've learned to see it through their lens, everything changes. And so there's 3 levels of like the leadership lens. And so the first one is like surface level. And this is managing behaviors. This is just understanding, looking at what they're doing and deciding for yourself, like what's going on. So it's like scolding the pastry chef for not keeping up. He's got his only tool is a saute pan, and he's a pastry chef. So leaders see behavior, but not the motivation. And then the next is the pattern level, where it's pattern level. That's what it's called. And it's understanding motivations. So a good chef realizes, okay, the pastry chef isn't lazy. She just needs a different tool. And so gives her a rolling pin instead of a saute pan. And so the leaders here will ask, like, why is this behavior showing up? But we're still looking at the behavior, but there's a question there which engages and brings in a little curiosity. So at that point, we're starting to get to the root of things. And then there's the next level, and this is the identity level, leading through design. And this one is where most most leaders they don't get to this. They want to manage behaviors because that's quick action. They may understand a little bit of motivation, but then understand it like going, which does help and is one of the keys to understanding the lens, but it doesn't still get to the heart of things. And so leading through design, this identity level, is where great leaders build the kitchen and culture where every cook uses their own strengths. They use the tools that they need and in order to be successful. And leaders here unlock design, not conformity. And so how you work with Tom is going to be different than how you're working with Sarah. And the decisions that Mark seemingly is indecisive about, you can understand, okay, what is he processing? What decision is he actually trying to make? And what things is he trying to do? And so this really is all about seeing with strategic clarity. If you can't lead others until you see them clearly first. And can I just tell you here, the costs, because this does take time, because you're like, Tami, I have 12 leaders under me. I have 12 people. How am I going to take time to understand each of their motivations? First, let's think about this. A lot of times your 12 leaders have multiple people under them as well. And so it's not just the 12 that is the disruption or the disconnection right here. It's typically the whole line under you. And so while you may be frustrated with Sarah's pushback, she's starting to disengage, and then you start to lose her. While Mark stalls on decisions, his confidence is eroding because he feels rushed or he doesn't feel seen or heard. And while Tom is quiet, he's also updating his LinkedIn. He's also looking at other opportunities. And there's high turnover, a siloed culture where you have different departments that can't talk to each other. And also, let's not even go to the fact that every time you have a replacement, like every time you have to hire somebody else, that's typically a 1.5 to 2 times salary replacement cost. And so the cost of not doing this, and I'd like you to think about this for yourself, is it really does cost you a lot by not taking a few minutes to really understand your people. Once you understand them, there are so many ways that now you can be more efficient. There's so many ways that you can engage them and start to work in a way that builds the culture of understanding. And I know that a lot of times people are like, oh, Tami, this fluffy stuff. This is not fluffy, okay? This is not just let's kumbaya and like every feeling is welcome. Because I do, like the therapist in me is saying, yes, feelings are valid and they do matter. But also the military in me is let's get down to brass tacks. Let's get the action. And it's the idea of sometimes people lead with emotion because they haven't had the opportunity to bring in their gut reaction or their thought process. Sometimes people lead with their gut reaction because they haven't brought in their emotion or their thought process. And the same is that maybe they brought in they're leading through their thought. They haven't felt what is really going on and they haven't listened to their instincts. And so this is actually really important. And we get through, and the more that you understand the motivations of the people on your team, and then you go deeper into the identity piece of the part that they play in the organization, the more that they feel seen and heard, the more that they embody and own the position they're in, which is the ultimate what we want. We want them to take ownership and we want them to run with it. If they know that they are valued and that they know that you understand their mission and how their mission plays a part in the overall bigger mission, they're more likely to stay. They're less likely to be pushing back or disengaging because now you have a vocabulary. You have a way to say, hey, Sarah, I see that you're pushing back a little bit and you're starting to disengage. What's going on? And she can say, this is where we have a safety concern and no one is listening to me. And so listening to her and seeing, because overall, if she is an employee if she is an employee you want to keep, by listening to her, she is going to bring more to the table if she feels like her voice matters. And I was trying to think of what is an example of this. And so I was reading about, I think it's Satya Nadella, at Microsoft, right? She took over and everything was really rigid. It was really siloed. And it was overall, like Microsoft at this point was like an underperforming culture. And it had shifted and she shifted it from everyone knew their roles and they knew it all to let's learn it all. And she empowered different lenses. She sparked innovation. She reignited impact. She really started to look at what each department brought and how each department worked together. And so by learning it all, by instead of saying, I'm an expert, I don't need to learn anything, I don't need to do anything, she was able to see them through their lens, what was going on, their silo, why their department was being rigid, why they particularly was underperforming, and see how they all related to the other departments. And just like the Satya, and the metaphor from earlier, this kitchen, is he didn't replace the kitchen, he gave each chef the right tools. And that's where Satya did too, is she went and she gave each of the departments the right tools to work together, to spark innovation, and to just reignite the impact that they were making. And they grew together as a team. And so if you're trying to realize that you've been leading like that head chef, forcing your team into your lens, having them do the same way each department, then this is a really good time. Like, book a leadership strategy call with me and let's start to unpack how your lens is shaping your team. Because this is not how it needs to be. This is not the end all be all. It's not it's not doom and gloom. Like, with simple shifts, everything can change. That culture can grow, and you can take it from a know-it-all to a this is what I need, this to let's learn it all, and how can I be part of the team? All right, let's talk about this a little bit more. The idea of seeing things through your lens. This is not something like in general. This is something that we do. We see the world through our experiences. We see the world through our perspectives. We see the world through our motivations. And so this is actually an opportunity for you to step back and understand first, what are your experiences, your opportunities, your perspectives, and then look at the person in front of you and see it through their eyes. What is their perspective? What is their lens? What is their motivation? Because they're not the same. They're just not. And when we take time to step back and we look at it from others' perspectives, think about your kids. How many times when you step back and you look at something, a rule from their perspective, doesn't mean the rule needs to change, but you can explain it in a different way that they can understand it. One of my rules is the kids don't get to take their electronics upstairs. And of course, they push back on me because all their friends get to take their phones upstairs. All their friends have a computer in their room. And that's just something that at a very young age, I decided that was going to be one of the rules that I do not budge on. And so as I was thinking about that, because of course, then I was like, am I being too strict here? But then what I did is I stepped back and I showed them from a different perspective of let's look at sleep quality. Let's look at what research is saying. I showed them other areas. So I heard them out. And then I saw what they didn't understand. And then I was able to give them that information. The same with your people. It's not that they're fighting back because they just want to fight back. They're not disengaging because they just want to disengage for the most part. Some maybe do, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? If these are good employees that you're all of a sudden are siloed because they don't feel like they are seen or heard, that we can fix. That's something that we can really change, because people don't leave hard work. They leave leadership that doesn't see them. Let me say that again. People don't leave hard work. They leave leadership that doesn't see them. Studies are showing that people will they will leave jobs that they're making really good money for a job that makes less money because they feel valued there, because it's tied to a mission that they believe in, because it works with who they are, their core. And so we don't have to lose good people to that when you get to have the opportunity to bring in the culture. Because I know from working with you, from talking with you, you want that same culture that matters. You want the culture of teamwork, and you want the camaraderie and collaboration. You don't want silos. You don't want disengagement. You don't want underperforming teams. And so leadership is the same. So let me say that again. You don't fix the kitchen by yelling louder. You can't just tell them to use the tool and make it efficient. You fix it by giving them the right tools. Leadership is the same, so stop forcing your lens and start seeing theirs. Look at how their brilliance can be brought into the situation. And so here's my challenge to you. When was the last time you had to repeat yourself 3 times to get through to a team member? That's not a process problem. It's a lens problem. So until you shift, you're going to keep losing the people. And so my challenge to you is to, when you want to talk to someone and there's maybe somebody who's disengaged, maybe someone's pushing back, instead of telling them, ask them questions. So what is your thought process here? What are your concerns? Ask the questions to help them break down and actually bring forward what their thoughts are. Because when you do that, whether it will work with your team, it'll work with your boss, it will work with your family, it will work with your teenagers. But being able to be seen and heard and valued for what you bring. If you assume everyone has something to bring to the table, why would you still have them on your team if they aren't bringing value or if they weren't capable of bringing value? So I know that you already value them, and now you get to do it through their lens. All right, friend. I am so glad that you're here. Thank you for listening. This is one of the questions I've gotten recently from a gentleman that I've been working with. He's just talking about how his team was doing so well and he started to disengage, and how a culture of communication now is starting to become siloed, and that he's hired a few new people. And is that part of the problem? Are they the wrong people? And let me just tell you this one thing as well, is that when you hire a new person, your whole team changes. The dynamics of your team changes. It's not just about bringing them on and onboarding them properly into the culture. The culture is going to shift a little bit because they are part of the culture now. And so there is an onboarding process. There is helping them understand the why behind what you do. There's that too. But it's also like understanding that it changes as people change. And so it's not something that you're like, okay, Tami, like it's broken, it's not working, maybe I'm not a good leader. No, it's just this is an opportunity to get strategically clear on what's going on within you, and then ask some questions and start to engage with your crew, with your team. So again, if you're interested and you know that that you have a lens problem, if you know that a communication or the team dynamics are not quite there, or your team dynamics are great and you want to elevate it, get on a strategy call with me. Let's chat and see what becomes possible. All right, friend, I am going to head out. I'm actually getting ready to head to the airport. I can't wait to share more about where I'm going and what I'm doing. But for now, that's all you get. So with that, choose joy until joy chooses you. If you have not left me a rate and review for this podcast, or please consider doing that. Please, it takes 30 seconds. It helps other leaders find the podcast. It's something that Apple and Spotify, they use to decide who gets to see the podcast and who doesn't. And so that would really help me out. Also, if you have a question that you want answered, send me a DM on LinkedIn, send me an email, just connect with me on Instagram, and I'll get that answer for you. All right, with that, choose joy until joy chooses you. Talk to you later.